Sons of the Forest had me worried, my pedigree chums, because at the last moment developers Endnight Games decided to not wait any longer and release it as an early access title versus it being a full release. So in today's early impression video, we are going to try and tackle the issue of whether Sons of the Forest lives up to its predecessor and if there is enough content here to warrant its price. So grab yourself a cup of tea and let's have a chat. Now, full transparency, Reggie and the boys simply haven't done enough time in Sons of the Forest to give you lovely viewers a review score, which is something I always like to try and do when a game charges you lovely folk proper money. So come back in a few weeks where I can give you all a more definitive answer here. But rather than be a small channel desperate to give you a score without much playtime, I instead want to deliver some early impressions on the day of release to help you decide on whether this is for you. At the time of the review, I'd say I'm 5 hours in, so take what I say here with a big grain of salt, because there is obviously a lot more for me to do. The Forest was released 5 years ago, and as survival games go, it was well received. In it, you crash land on an island filled with cannibals as you try to save your little lad from some proper who eat people for a living. And Reggie and the boys loved our time with it, as you could build up camps, explore an island and all its mysteries, all whilst taking on the Hannibal Lecters of the world with your little axe. The themes of horror was spot on too, with some excellent AI to contend with, so Sons of the Forest has a lot to live up to. Well, I'm pleased to say, even in early access, this is better, bigger and bolder than its predecessor. Sons of the Forest has used its little brother as a blueprint and just exploded it into something far more rounded, far more cohesive and far less frustrating. The fact I can say all of this so early on in my playthrough is testament to where this game is going. The story itself revolves around finding some twat billionaire on an island, and I assume his family also, and yes, you end up crash landing, and that sense of deja vu leaves you feeling a little bit concerned, as you do wonder if this is just a bit of a cash grab. But fear not, my Padawans, because the fresh ideas spill over right off the bat. Immediately you go over the crash site and discover Kevin, a man who has been affected by the crash and can't talk or hear from his injuries. Of course, what this means is that he becomes your little bitch, and so with that, you can make him do all sorts of bullshit you hated from the first game. Want him to set up a simple camp? He can do that. Want him to get food? No worries. How about the monotony of cutting logs and bringing the bloody things over to you? No worries, because Kevin Bitch will take that all on for you. It's truly life-changing to have this in a survival game, where most of us like the survival aspects and enjoy the building parts, but perhaps hate the actual gathering parts of it. For single players, it's a massive draw, and one I highly commend the developers on for taking such a drastic approach, and I truly hope other survival games follow suit here. As for your AI companion, he can at times be a bit slow to follow you and take actions, and like a rabbit in headlights, he watches you get spanked and slapped by the enemies without doing much else. I wanted to give him a spear I crafted, but alas, this is beyond his little brain. So a lot more work needs to take place on Kevin to build him up into something far more useful. But it's a foundation for where this might go, and so far it's looking pretty good. Speaking of enemies though, they appear more varied, and there is certainly intrigue here too. I came across this lady with multiple legs, and if I'm being honest with you lot, I thought maybe Ubisoft developers got involved and we had a glitch on our hands, but she never attacked me, and based on the visual clues of what she was wearing, I thought maybe she actually escaped the cannibals somehow and was seeking refuge from them. Sure enough, I discovered her later pointing at enemies near me. I'm not sure where this aspect of the story leads me, but she certainly seems friendly, and I can't wait to unravel more with her and what she offers. The enemies themselves have fantastic AI. Like before, they watch you from afar, they come at you in groups, or they back off when they feel the pain. I can't comment too much on the variation of enemies, but certainly there is enough here for me already to appreciate that they are more than competent than before. So Reggie's big issue here is that I don't find Sons of the Forest as scary or as frightening as the original Forest, and I think a lot of that is down to those enemies. It could just be my limited playthrough, of course, so like I say, take what I put here with a pinch of salt, but the main difference I find is that I can see enemies patrolling areas, but from a distance. Maybe they're patrolling camps or randomly as they walk about the gaff, but they're there, and they're there to be seen from quite a distance. So what I do is simply avoid them. I skirt around them skirt around their little zone of influence and I move on with my life. And that's not to say they won't attack you or sneak up on you, but in the forest you just felt far more vulnerable as a lone little survivor from an airplane crash trying to find his son, and it just felt that everything was more desperate. Here, it's very much a special forces guy who already knows his shit, and the enemies just don't seem as daunting in the first few hours. Not yet, anyway. Hopefully, this can be added to as we progress through early access, or more to the point as Reggie gets deeper into the game. Other areas I'm immediately enjoying is crafting. It's far less frustrating than before, where each time you select an item in here, it immediately tells you all the things possible that can be crafted with it. And so there is no nonsense of guessing or going online to find a recipe book. And of course the animations look far better too. And based on your AI companion, it's clear the developers here, they want to take away some of those frustrations. And that is done more so with the GPS system, giving you places to visit from the very offset and a sense of direction. The forest had a shitty map which would be etched in as you move throughout the world, but here you have a sense of purpose, and I absolutely love that. Reggie and the boys immediately found themselves going to each location to see what could be found. I have no idea at this stage if I've completed all the findings from each location, but the fact a GPS system is there from the start is a great little pointer. I also stumbled across a 3D printer, which has already given me access to some great items, such as this mask, which appears to confuse the cannibals, and in no time I'm sure I'll be given access to some proper weaponry. It's a relief then that not everything is surrounded in collecting bloody logs and sticks, but instead I can collect resin to create me something very decent and pucker. And for those survivalists out there, you'll be pleased to know there is still the usual water, hunger and health to manage. Making a camp ensures you get sleep and recovers health, but it also allows you to skip the time in the day and indeed save down your game. Hunting is an option, and I had great fun trying to nab myself a little squirrel. So what they've done here is they've kept the soul of what made the forest so good, but Sons of the Forest has really stepped up the game. One of the big standout points though are the graphics. It's a vast improvement over its successor with far more detail in terms of the forest itself. Everything runs well with only the odd stutter here and there, and I have to say there are no issues at all running this at 4K. Word of warning, however, is that Reggie lad, he is on a 4080, so admittedly a little juicy loosey on the power front, but overall I've had no crashes, and for an early access game I am blown away by just how good this already looks. In particular, cutting trees down now has a real heft to it, with a bit of wood chipping away each time, and everything here just feels far more realistic, far more genuine and less arcade-esque than what it was before. Again, I must stress, it's early for me, so I haven't explored enough of the island or crafted myself a big base yet, but it certainly is a looker. Lighting is also excellent, where dark areas are genuinely dark as they should be, and here is where you do wish for a proper shelter to be had. I will say though that the torch is useless that you can build, as I got more light from my epoxy lighter than I did burning my sticks. This is something for sure they need to address. As for sound, it's another excellent start here. In particular, the cries from the cannibals in the distance act as an early warning sign and also place that fear into you. Sound effects are great, from clunks of wood being chopped to the slash of an enemy's face as you crack your axe on them. So early impressions are solid, people. For me, it doesn't quite feel like a sequel, but rather a remake. It's the same formula, the same kind of story, and on initial impressions, it has improved in nearly every single area. Is it worth the $30? Well, right now, I need to put more hours into it, and I can't comment on just how much of that story exists in the game. But if you like the first one, then for sure you're going to be in for a treat, as it is very much the same, but better. I love how they already have a timer on the home screen to show you until the next patch, so I'm confident that from this early great start, the only way is up. And with that, my lovelies, you have a good day. Reggie out.